How are we doing? Thanks for joining us. We're back in the workshop this morning. We're going to be finishing this little project off that we started. So it's the second part to the shrink pot video. Right, so last time that's the stage that we got to. What we want to do now is we want to cut our rebate around the inside to put the base in. So what do we need? Well, I have two boards here. It's nice dried oak, so that one's about 3/4 of an inch thick. That one's 1/2 inch thick. So in new money, 12mm and 20mm. The important thing is this has got to be bone dry. It's got to be have no moisture in it, because we don't want that shrinking as well. That's the idea behind that. That's green wood and that's completely dry. So we're going to use a thinner one, the 12mm one, for our base. We also need our tool. Now this is a flex cut, a right-handed scope. You can see that that's a 5mm one. You can get one that's slightly bigger, but I find the 5mm is ample for this job. So decide which is going to be the top and the bottom. Use this one. So that's 12mm. What I want to do now is just put a little line all the way around the inside, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my finger as a guide. I'm just going to put a line all the way around, about 10mm. So we've got a nice parallel line all the way around the inside. Now, this bit, scope, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my thumb as a bit of a guide, and then I'm just going to keep going all the way around, working to that line. So the bottom of that blade, I'm keeping it in line with that line, that pencil mark that I've put around there. I'm just going to work all the way around, just taking a bit off. Don't go too deep. You don't have to go mad with it, because obviously the deeper the rebate that we put in the side wall, then the more the pot has to shrink to get that base to make a nice snug fit. So we're just going to work all the way around. I'll just do one section down to the depth that we need. There you can see there, probably only a couple of millimeters, 1.5 millimeters maybe, but that's enough. That's enough to get us a decent seal on it. If you don't do the rebate deep enough, there's a possibility that when this does shrink, that you're more likely to get cracking in the side of this pot. So it's a fine line really between going too deep and not deep enough with it. So we'll just carry on with that, work all the way around. Right, we've cut our groove now in the base. So all we have to do now, we've got our 12mm piece of oak, and we're going to transfer that outline onto the base. So it's just a case of pencil, draw around the inside, transfer that onto our piece of wood and cut it out. Yeah, that's our base cut out. We've just cut on the outside of the cut line just give us a millimetre all the way around, alright, because we want that to be a nice snug fit. We don't want that to be slack. Alright, so we've got that now. What we need to do, we need to obviously reduce the thickness of this. So what I'm going to do is run round with a 5mm line all the way around, just using my finger as a guide. You can use a pair of dividers if you want, but yeah, all the way around there, connect it up. All this is then going to be waste, so we need to get shut of that. Best way I've found of doing that is with the axe. Let's do that now. You can see there we're just working down to that line, and then when we've got it all the way around, we'll fit the base in. Right, we've got our base down now. We've taken that off with the axe. I've just finished it off on the belt sander actually. Now what we want to do, because I've actually left that a little bit bigger, so we've got our we've still got a little bit to take off. So if we put it up against the underneath of the shrink pot, you can have a look there where you need to take off the bits. But we want it, like I said before, we want it a nice tight fit. You don't want it sloppy in there, because otherwise this is gonna have to shrink too much and it might not be a good fit. So if we just work on that now, you can take it off with a knife. We can just work on that with our mortar. Just keep working away at that until we get it a nice fit, and it'll just sit in there with a bit of a push. Right, we're down. We've got it all the way around there. You can see we've got a nice uniform thickness there to sit in that groove. And we're going to fit the base now, so making sure we've got it obviously the right way around. So the flat part wants to be on the inside of the pot. So this one's a bit of a cob shape, to be honest, but don't matter, it's right, isn't it? Okay, so we'll just sit that in. Now you can see it's quite tight, that, so we're just got to just push it in with our fingers. And all we're going to do now is just work it down slowly, pushing it down with our fingers all the way around till it gets down to that groove, and then you'll hear it, it'll click in. Really important that you get that thickness, the 5mm thickness, for it to sit in that groove. It's got to sit in that groove all the way around, otherwise it won't make that seal. But that one's sat in nicely now. If you look inside, we've got you see the gaps there. Actually, you can see the light there. Well, don't worry about that, as long as they're not massive. That's all I do with the shrink pot. So this is just gonna shrink down nicely and make a nice tight seal around there. Let's crack on with the top. Okay, right, this is one that's been drying for a few weeks. That is sorted. That is a nice snug fit in there. So everything's dry now. That's not going to shrink anymore. I think it might have been about a month, to be honest, but it's only a thin wall, so that's not going to shift anymore. So we can actually do the top now. You can't put the tops on these when they're still green, because that's just going to shift again, and then you'll never get the top off. So here's one we've finished. That's what we're hoping to achieve. This one, again, piece of oak, 20mm, 3/4 of an inch, and what we're trying to achieve is a fit whereby once the top's on, we just give it a little twist, and that's not going to come off. Okay, This one I've just put a little bit of black buffalo horn on the top there. Just finishes it off nice. You can do anything, you don't even have to have anything on the top if you don't want to. You can just have it, you know, have it flush. But I think the next one that we do, we'll just have it flush. We'll not bother putting anything on the top. So, what we need our 20mm piece of board. Again, you can dry your own, you can shave it down, but this one is just a piece of, we're making some furniture, it's just an offcut, so we're going to use that for the top. What we need as well as the actual lid, which is our thicker piece, our 20mm, we're going to use a piece of the thinner stuff, alright, the 1/2 inch 12mm stuff, which creates our, which one it is? So the bottom bit is the bit that's going to sit on the inside and create that little friction fit so that the lid doesn't fall off. So we get our pot, we get our big piece of wood, our thickest piece, and all we're going to do, we're just going to transfer the outline onto there. Once we've got that, we can cut it out. Right, we've got our top cut out, left it slightly big, alright, maybe a mil all the way around. We can take that off later on. Okay, so that's our lid. Now, they're quite tricky, these, because what we have to do, we need to transfer the inside profile onto a piece of paper. There's no easy way of doing this really. What I've found is quite an effective way is I've got a bit of I don't know, just a bit of muck on my thumb, and then place the paper over it, and then all I'm going to do is just work round that. You can see there, I'm just working around that, and any muck that is on your hands kind of transfers over onto this piece of paper. Might just be able to see it there, and that gives us a line to work to. It's not really critical, this because what we're going to do, this inside bit, it's going to be a bit of a slack fit, because what we need it to be able to do is to turn slightly, so we don't want it a dead fit, a friction fit if you will. So we've got our outline on the piece of paper. I'm going to cut that out now with a pair of scissors and then draw around it on the piece of wood. Now we can cut on the inside of this one. We don't want, like we said before, we don't want it a tight fit, so we cut on the inside of that line so it's a bit slacker. Right, that's our inside of the lid cut. You can see there, it's a bit of a slack fit, which is what we want. If it's a little bit too tight, you can take a bit off there with your hook knife. So that wants enlarging a little bit there. So if we just get our hook knife, a bit harder to work with now because it's dried out, but we can just take a little bit off with that, and then when we try it, there. What we need this to do, we need this to just turn very, very slightly, and that's what gives us our friction fit. Now this next bit, a little bit tricky this bit. What we need to do, we need to wedge that inside. So the way I do this, I'll get a couple of screws. We're going to put 2 screws in there, and then make sure obviously they don't come through the bottom. Put them in, and then we've got something to get hold of, so when we put it in there we can just turn it very, very slightly, and then it'll jam in the position that we want it to be in. Right, we've got our screws in. Now it's a tricky bit, there's no easy way of doing this, to be honest. What we need to do, we need to drop that in there. You can see we've got that slack fit. Now, like I said, this is the tricky bit. We need to get this into a position where we've got it protruding about 1 millimetre. We don't want it going down below like that. It's got to be proud of the top. And so the reason we put these screws in is so that we can turn them like that. We can just twist them. So in fact that there, you see, that is not going to drop out. So that's in a good position, that. So we're just slightly proud all the way around. And what we need to do now is, maintaining that in that position, we need to take these screws out. So you've got to be really careful. In fact, you're probably better doing it with a pair of pliers, because you don't want any downward pressure, because that's going to shove that into the pot. So we'll get some pliers on these. So see, move very slightly then. Right. We can get them to a point where we can take them out with our fingers. That will be better. Great. Right, those screws are out now. Like I say, we've still got that very slight lip on there. Now what we're going to do, we've got our top. We want to put that in the position where it's going to finish, and we have to attach this to this. Now the only way I found of doing it, now please, if anybody else knows any easier method, put it in the comments after the video. But what I found works well is to use super glue. So I'm just using a mitre bond, and I'm going to bond this, bond that, get the activator on, and then sit it in that position and let it go off. So making sure you come inside, just get some adhesive on there, adhesive on here as well, and then spray some activator on it. And then in that position, and very, very slight downward pressure, being careful not to shove the bottom into the pot. It's good stuff, this mitre bond. It doesn't take long to go off. So I'm hoping now that when we pull that there, that's the position we want it, and then we can just a little bit of pressure. There, now that's gone off. So what we can do now, we can either add a little top on there, or what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a couple of dowels through here so that that is secure. I'm not going to rely on that glue. I definitely want some permanent fixing, so I'm just going to put a couple of wooden dowels in here. There you go. We've got the pellets in now, the dowels I should say, and pelleted over. So when we put that onto our pot, bit of a slack fit, but when we turn that, a very slight turn, that gives us our friction fit. So like we said before, we left that slightly proud, so if you look under there, we can dress that off, we can sand it off and get that a nice fit, and go around there with a pencil now, put a mark, and we can work to that mark. And then what I'm also going to do is just get me mortar. I'm just going to work around the inside of that, just beveling it really. So just using that thumb lever, and just gives it a nicer look, to be honest. Gets rid of that sharp edge around there, and we can finish it off with a little bit of sandpaper. There we go. That's the top done. So we've got the inside sorted. That's pelleted, taking off that sharp edge. Also the top, I've worked around that edge as well, taking that, give it a nice chamfer on it. Just finished it off with a bit of 120 grit, and I think that'll do, to be honest. Yeah, quite a nice pot that. So that's the top on, and like I said before, just give it a little turn, and that gives us our friction fit. I'm going to leave that one plain. I'm not going to bother putting a top on this one, but yeah, that's our little silver birch shrink pot, all finished. That's the other one we did. I say we a bit of black buffalo, bit of a knot on that, but I think it looks quite cool, to be honest. Yeah, and I've just finished that one off. You can see the colour difference. This one's just finished off with a little bit of Osmo oil, or you can use Danish oil. Use whatever you want, to be honest. But yeah, it's worth sealing. So bit of seal on the bottom as well. Job done. Anyway, that's shrink pots. If anyone's got any suggestions on a different method of getting that that bit on, I'd like to hear them. But that's the best way that I've found to do it, is with the super glue. It works. It's straight enough. So that's it. Shrink pot's done. If you've liked the video, give us a thumbs up, and if you like any of my other stuff, subscribe. Catch you later.